Hello, everyone, and welcome to this evening. I see everyone starting to roll in. That's great. We're going to give folks a few more minutes, but thank you so much for taking time out of your evening. I'm Madison Shields. I'm here with the Georgetown admissions team, and we're so excited to have you take time out of your busy schedules to learn a little bit more about fitting a part-time MBA degree into your career path and to your personal life. So we're really excited to be sharing some great insights with you. I recognize that today is the second event of the Flex MBA week, which is super exciting. So last night we had an awesome mock class. Tonight we're talking FXO experience and how does that fit into your career journey. And then on Saturday we're going to be having an in-person preview day. So if you're local to the DMV or you're able to make it through all that snow and cold weather, we'd love to see you on campus, and there's still plenty of time to register for that. With that said, I want to give some really great formal introductions. So, like I alluded to, I'm Madison Shields. I'm the Associate Director here on the missions team. I work mostly in marketing, but full disclosure, I'm a little bit of a secret shopper. So, I'm actually in the part-time Flex MBA in person. Happy to share insights on that. But I'm really thrilled to be welcoming my three online colleagues here to be really shining the light of what it's like to be joining virtually and in a couple different time zones and all over the US. So I'd love to start us off with some formal introductions. If you three don't mind, starting off with your name, your background, why you specifically chose the Flex Online program, and then when you applied, what were you hoping to get out of this, point in your career with the part-time online degree? So intro, where you're calling in from, why you chose the online degree, and then, what you were hoping to get out of it with the online format. Nardi, do you mind if I start with you? And then we'll go around the circle, and then I have some questions teed up.
Okay, sounds good. Hi everyone. My name is Nardo Salmo, but I go by Nardi. I am a first year Flex Online student, so I'll be graduating 2028. I'm a Forte Fellow and a MAC Fellow as well. I'm currently also doing my concentration in Business of Healthcare. So if you guys have any questions about that, we'd love to chat. Um, my background is in biomedical engineering, and currently I work for Philips as a product quality engineer. Um, and then to answer your second question, why FXO? I think for me, I wanted the flexibility. I was at a point in my career where I knew I had the technical knowledge, but I wanted to pivot more into like strategic leadership roles, and I knew MBA would be the best fit. However, I didn't want to quit my job and do this full time. So this was, I guess, a good balance in terms of, continuing to excel in my career, learn, but at the same time also get the MBA experience. And then when I started, of course, what I was hoping to gain was the global business experience. I work for, a global company, and all of the devices we make, it affects all the patients globally. So I wanted to have that mindset, and the Georgetown MBA program seem to align really well with my career goals.
Thanks. Andrea, do you mind? You're the next one on my screen.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Andrea Brown. So I'm also in Nardi's cohort. I'm first year FXO student. So we were sitting in your shoes a year ago, roughly. So it's good to be able to talk to you guys. But yeah, so I am Flex Online, and my full-time professional career right now is I'm working with Boeing. I'm a project engineer. I work for the space and defense side, and I'm also kind of dipping my toes into business development. Long term, I want to sell big contracts to the government. And so, yeah, I chose this program. I always wanted to attend Georgetown, but I live in Merritt Island, Florida, right outside of Kennedy Space Center. So I can't actually attend in person, and relo wasn't really in the cards for me right now. So this is the opportunity to get the best of both worlds. I sort of have a third job, I guess. I'm an officer in the Army Reserves, so it all keeps me very busy, but this program allows me to give each of those priorities time and I really do appreciate that. So
Thanks.
yeah.
Adrian, you're next.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So, here coming in, unique situation. I live in North Carolina. I've been in the Marine Corps for almost 18 years now, active duty. So, that's where, this cohort comes into play for me being in the Flex Online program. Biggest reason why I chose Georgetown actually was because they have a standard. Um, Most schools, as I was going through MBA programs, I knew I wanted to get mine, but I also knew I didn't want to wait until I retired here in 2 years. Most schools were just offering like, hey, you can get in, right? You're welcome to come in, and that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for a program that had a standard. Not everyone gets in. You have to apply. There's an interview process. It is formal, and there is something that means something to me. Just being a career Marine, like I've held myself to a standard for so long. Why would I just want to go somewhere that just says, hey, you can get in? So that was the biggest reason, and then second is the brand recognition. It does not matter where you go or what you do. When you say where you're going to school, it does matter. And I can tell you right now, since I've been in this program, when people ask me, it is like, it really does mean something. And, those principles that Georgetown's established throughout its, a couple hundred years of being around, they've really laid themselves as a foundation for you to be able to use that name wherever you go. And I'm going to use this to transition into the private sector. Not sure what yet, but I am going to use this because it lines up. My Flex Online program lines up with my transition to the private sector. And I'll say like the cohort itself, right? That is something that's really benefited me already to be able to prepare for that transition. So Georgetown's paying in dividends, and I've just started in my first year with we're all in the same cohort, and it's been great. And I will say that I do not at all. I couldn't recommend a better school. So I'll stop there though.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. I know it's kind of crazy to think this time last year, fast forward, this is where you're all at, surviving class and and fitting that into your crazy schedules. I think you all touched in some capacity, this idea of having a very global program is really unique. And it's true, the world is a small place and you never know when you're going to come across a fellow Georgetown alum, and that's really exciting. So taking a big picture and step back, I'd love to get a little bit better understanding for the setup of this conversation of, can you tell us a little bit more about what does your day-to-day your life look like? How are you incorporating your class preparation within your responsibilities and your career obligations? What does that kind of look like? I think it's a one big hurdle as you're considering a part-time degree of that's wonderful. It's great to take on more responsibilities with academics, definitely being a priority. But, when it comes down to it, how are you guys handling it and tips and tricks along the way? And I would love to kind of hear a little bit if you're able to share.
Okay, I can go first. So for me, well, since I have a full-time job, I have a very strict schedule. So 9 to 5 is definitely work. And I try not to do anything related to school stuff while I'm at work. Thankfully, I have a hybrid schedule. So on some days I'm at home, some days I'm in the office in DC. So that really gives me that flexibility. But the moment, I finish work, I try to give myself some space. So I usually go work out, unless I have like study sessions, in which case, from 5 to 8 p.m., that's when I usually meet with my team to do projects. And what I really like about the FXO program is the asynchronous and synchronous portions. So in terms of the material, you can take the asynchronous portion anytime. It doesn't have to be during the week. So I usually take it during the weekend. And then when we meet in class, the professors usually go over the same material again, which really reinforces the learning. Yeah, so that's what my day-to-day looks like. I'm a very social person. I try to network as much as possible. So whenever I get a chance, I try to stop by on campus, especially on Thursdays. They have what it's called kegs, keeping everyone a Georgetown Social, I think that's what it stands for. It's a social hour where the different SGA groups and student clubs organize an event. There's free food, free drinks, and it's such a great way to network. I've met a lot of full-time folks and flex students as well. So I highly recommend it if you guys have a chance to attend those, please do. And I think on Saturday, maybe if I'm not mistaken, as part of the preview day, they also have kegs. Um, but so you might able to see that.
Yeah. Kegs is a great way to stop by campus if anyone's coming through DC for work or looking for ways to have a good excuse to visit DC.
Yep, great.
I'll go ahead. So, balancing everything is something that I definitely wanted to be able to communicate about because I had a lot of questions, this time last year of like, what does it really look like? Am I really sitting in class, like,
Mhm.
several nights a week staring at a screen on camera? Yes, you are. So there's, that part isn't very flexible, but it's one of those things that I'm happy to adjust to. Like, this is such a privilege and such a cool opportunity. I think before I started this program, I was trying to be in bed by 8 p.m. and I would be at the gym by 4 a.m. That was just how I had to work my hours. And I had to kind of adjust that because now I'm not really falling asleep until 10:30, 11 after class because my brain's all wound up. So that does change a little bit. If you're a night owl, this is going to be like easy. But so that's kind of what my day looks like right now is if I can get up early and go to the gym, I'll do that before work. Similar to Nardi, I do work, about a 9 hour day. In the office, I have to be in the office every single day. And since I do work in a classified environment, so there's not really I can't get on Google and Zoom and I can't do any schoolwork at work. So it is once I get home, if I didn't do asynchronous over the weekend, say it was a drill weekend and I was working all weekend for my army stuff, then I'll try to get my async in right before class because you do want to have like watch that material before you go into class so that you're set up for success. Right now, I'm not currently enrolled in an elective, so that means I'm only taking classes 2 nights a week. So right now, Tuesdays and Thursdays are open for me, and I do still find myself filling that time with homework, async, papers. But those are the days I do try to rest a little bit.
Yeah, same. I get up early. So I'll get up early, typically try to hit an hour, hour and a half in the morning of schoolwork is what my goal is, or studying. Really, it's class dependent. Like there's some classes that are going to be more challenging than others and are going to require work. Like your first class statistics, the quant side of things, you're going to have to, I dedicated a significant amount of time towards that class, not just, throughout the week, but also on the weekends, as well as with my classmates, which was really beneficial working with people in your cohort, getting Zoom sessions together, studying together, going through the materials. The professors provide everything you need to do to be successful. So there's nothing that you aren't provided to be successful. It's just whether or not you have the discipline to be successful. So understand it will take time, but it's very manageable. Like right now, we have one class, marketing class, very enjoyable case studies, everything. I really enjoy that one a lot, where it's more group focused, discussion focused, and then the other managerial accounting class is a little more independent. But again, like you still find yourself texting your cohort members like, hey, can we study tonight, and setting meets up, and I do that all the time. So I will say that we're set up for success. You can balance it in your schedule if you're a working professional. There's no reason why you couldn't do this. It just you do have to sacrifice your free time.
Yeah, those are all really great points. I think this idea of, sticking to what works best for you and adjusting is so relatable. And, you're now entering your second semester, which is crazy. So hopefully you have things a little bit more under your belt, and the second semester is a little bit of a a less of adjustment for sure. Stats, I think, definitely got us all. Brutal for sure. But forward thinking, are any of you considering taking an ILE? Or, Andrea, I know you said you're not necessarily taking an elective right now, but have any of you considered signing up for a March ILE? I want to share.
I actually just took a January ILE,
Oh,
which
nice.
is
Which
why
one?
I was able to kind of not force myself into an elective. And I would
Uh-huh.
totally recommend if you feel like, maybe your job gives you that holiday break. For me, I was coming off of like a 2-week break from work. So I felt a little bit more energized. It's a 6-day intensive course, an ILE is, but it's a 1.5 credit hour. And for me, if I could like suffer through 6 tough days and save myself 6 weeks, that was 10 out of 10 would recommend if you can do an ILE like that. Now, I don't know about the March ILEs. I haven't crossed that bridge yet, but the January ILE was really great. It was right. It was I think it was January 2nd through the 6th, somewhere in there. So, start off the new year strong. So
Yes. I'm glad you had a good experience. And the March Ileys are just around the corner. So there is that that balance for sure to help you either expedite your classes and your credits or layer on a really nuanced topic that might be relevant to your industry. So kind of leading into that, you know, since starting the program, has there been an aha moment that has brought you a little bit more clarity about, perhaps where you see yourself in the next couple of years? You're not necessarily the same person you were a year ago, and I'd love to know a little bit more. How has your thought process changed about your career and maybe how you're refining that for the next 5 years?
So for me specifically, I'm very excited because one, I'm transitioning from one career to another one. But I will tell you already in my cohort, I'm already working with other classmates on a startup that they've started that's, currently working out of London and it's executing. Like they're in business. They recruited me on. Like the energy that I feel from the people in the class and just the ability to network right with the private sector and see as well as with the professors. One of our professors, one of the deans, she's already took us under. She's given us, hey, this is what you need to do. This is who you need to go talk to, giving us guidance. Like you don't have to be an alumni to work the Georgetown network. We're current Georgetown students. So we can go ahead and work the network and it is paying dividends. And we just started. So for me, it's very exciting. It's very energetic. Everyone's happy to be there. Everyone wants to be there because we've had to apply to the program. We weren't just accepted into the program off of, a random application. I can feel the energy and I feel it every time I talk to my fellow cohort mates and I really enjoy it.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, you are fitting in something every minute of your day, especially with that time zone change.
Yep. So just to add to that, I agree with Adrian as well. I think when I came into this program, I was looking for like wanting to get a promotion to slightly pivot, but stick with like my current industry. But right now I'm taking this one class called the Business of Healthcare, and it's being taught by the CEO of Morgan Health, who has a lot of experience, and he has worked on, like, he has done a couple of startups. He has worked at the White House. Like I said, now he's a CEO, and just a wealth of knowledge. It makes me feel like I'm limiting myself. So I'm just like, okay, why am I just trying to pivot? Okay, what if like I do a startup? And so next semester, I'm trying to take like a healthcare entrepreneurship class. So it's like, it just makes you feel so empowered, just being in this program, just like Adrian was saying, just seeing what people are doing. You're motivated to like push yourself and do more. So yeah, I really like that.
Oh, that's awesome. A lot of entrepreneurship in your futures. Thinking back to last summer as well, there at some point was a summer career deliverable where the Career Center started sending you resources before you even really started classes, which is kind of crazy to think about. But it started to change your mindset from applying to an MBA program and thinking big picture to realizing how do you frame your story and your narrative now to perhaps supervisors or potential, new employers. I'd love to know maybe perhaps your experience with those summer career deliverables deliverables? Have you leaned back on into them? And how did you change your mindset from applying to MBAs to now perhaps being a little bit more future thinking?
So I actually didn't see that coming when I first had, Laura reach out, I was like, oh no, like, and it comes through on
You're
Canvas and I'm
already
like,
behind.
I'm gonna be graded. This is July, but then I realized like, no, they're here to help us.
Mhm.
This is not a scary thing, and I was also at the time like, well, I already have a job. But then as you really think about it, you're like, yeah, but I'm here to elevate my career. And getting to have that resource is really neat. So I haven't gotten to work with them much, but I am in the process of, refining my resume and trying to find how can I elevate my career. And it's a great resource to be able to have.
Yeah, that summer goes by quickly.
I would say this along the same lines of what Andrea's saying is they were already talking about and preparing you for like pivots in your career like that first summer. And you're like, I haven't even started my first class. And they're already talking about, hey, you need to be prepared to, mock interviews are coming up in the spring and all these things. And I'm like, I'm still trying to get my, GI Bill registered. Like, what is going on here? But it really gets you excited because what they're focused on is your success. They want you to be successful, right? Like once you've been accepted into the program, the idea is for you to be successful. The idea is for you to represent the Georgetown brand. The idea is for you to be able to, go do successful things because, that just, elevates the school so that you get into a position that you can give back, right? Because that's what it's really about here. And that's something that I was, shocked because, I haven't experienced that with school prior to where like, hey, we want you to go ahead and start thinking about the next steps now to where like you said, we're already almost done with our first year and it does not feel like it. That's pretty crazy when you think about it, but that mindset continues to push you forward and it continues to drive you. So I appreciated that. I didn't at the time, but now I do.
Absolutely. Well, something I think you guys have all touched on in different facets is the ability to connect so closely with your cohort and your classmates. And I think that's what is such a big benefit of starting a part-time MBA and starting an MBA in general is, the classmates that go through the trenches and go through and survive stats with you and ultimately building up your network. I know, Adrian, you touched on, you've already gotten looped into some entrepreneurship ventures and Nardi, you're starting to think about that in other ways. But I'd love to know a little bit more about how do you connect with your study teams? What are the logistics that go behind that? Because at the end of the day, it's your classmates in 20 years from now that you're going to be leaning on and going back to kind of mull over some big career decisions and next steps as well.
So I think so one thing that not a lot of people know about the FXO cohorts is that a lot of people who take the courses, they're actually local in the DMV. Just pointing that out. That was kind of a surprise to me. I think in terms of helping us stay connected, what really helped way early in the program was our residency program. So the first week we spent in DC taking a very intense course. That really bonded us. And really, the study group and the friends I made that week, they are the ones that I lean on even now. And not just like my study group as well, the entire cohort. I think since we went through that experience as a cohort, we continue like that bond to this day. And I feel like we got all the awkwardness out of the way, and so now if I have like study groups with a random person in the cohorts, I don't have issues. We still remain connected, and not just that, but we also have WhatsApp group where people can bring up issues that they're going through. We can talk about anything. So I think that really helped us connect, and so that's why even now, even if we're in virtual, we still remain like connected, basically.
Yeah, I agree with Nardi's assessment, right? I actually didn't get to make the thing. I was in transition. I was moving from another country back to America. I didn't get to make it, but I'm a social person anyways. So it was like anytime we have these WhatsApp groups and the logistics behind it to answer one of your questions is you get assigned a new group every semester. So every semester we get a new group within our cohort to work with. So, and they just, the professors drop it, hey, this is your new group for the semester. And every time it works out to where it's someone, most of the time, you may not have worked with yet. But what it does is it just gets you guys immediately together. And, to Nardi's point, like and most of everybody's already met each other. So they've already worked through the awkwardness. And it's like, hey, automatically we're on assignments, we're hitting each other up, we're forming study groups, we're working on these things together. And, it's already done for you. So, to the logistics part, Madison, is it's more along the lines of, they assign you that group and then you push through it, but it's initially formed to what Nardi was saying was in that initial week. But even like someone like me who wasn't able to make that initial week, you still feel that closeness because, again, a lot of the people are in the DMV area. Anytime you're there, you try to pop on campus, you drop it in the WhatsApp group and you're like, hey, anybody going to be around? Kegs is there. You meet you sign up for a competition, you go to all these crazy speakers they have all the time. I mean, it is always something going on at the school. So I have to say that like it doesn't matter whether you make the week or not, like you still feel that because to Nardi's point, right? You're going to be together throughout this whole cohort your whole time.
I so appreciate you both sharing, being able to have a pulse point to campus. Even though a lot of folks are in the kind of the DMV area or driving distance, sometimes 95 is not what you want to deal with on a Thursday night, especially in the winter. But Andrea, you said you had joined a January ILE. I'd love to know what was it like interacting with folks outside of your cohort for the first time?
That's a really good question, because that's something that I like to highlight when I do talk about my ILE experience. So yeah, so the ILE was my first time to be in a class on Zoom with people that, might be third years, they might be about to graduate. And that was really cool because we're going to have breakout sessions, which is something we haven't talked about. Zoom gives you the option to do a breakout session. It might be four of you on a screen, it might be six of you on a screen, but it's a smaller platform to be able to conversate. And since it was a leadership class, it was a really good opportunity to talk. And, like stats, you're not really going to like have these in-depth conversations to get to know the people, but a leadership class, absolutely. So yeah, that was really neat. I was able to kind of like hear their experiences and then bring it back to some people in my cohort and say, yeah, no, they said that there was this on this, the global experience. This is what they said. It feels like you're talking to these upperclassmen that have gone through what you've gone through. One big question I always had was like, does it get easier? And so those, getting to speak with people from other cohorts can kind of give you a little bit of a preview of what you might see, in the next couple semesters.
For sure. Well, with that kind of preempting us, what are you guys excited to take advantage of in the next couple of years? I know we have some conversations in the chat about, wanting to know more about what the culture is like and, what you're hoping to take advantage of as an online student in the next couple of years. So, anything top of mind that you can't wait for besides GBE?
You already said it, the GBE.
Yeah, GBE.
I think that's one that everyone looks forward to. But no, overall, it's just the continued progression with your classmates as you go into like more, in-depth courses or more specialty breakouts. Because I think that's where you begin to like really develop that individualism, right, on where you want to go. But also you get to get with those like-minded people who are progressing in that same direction. So, what I mean when I say that is like, for example, like Nardi saying she wants to go into healthcare, right? And she wants to expand more into that area possibly, right? That you start to get around those same people and you're progressing together. Okay. And as you progress together, you then help network each other out of, the school into whatever's next, which is really what I'm saying the most is, the advantage of networking is like, I just can't speak highly enough about it. And that's what I really look forward to is continuing to do that because it doesn't stop. And Georgetown is, everyone I talk to, right? Like I have a friend just got admitted to Wharton, right? No one knows what Wharton is. when I'm around. But when people say Georgetown, they're like, "Oh my God!" And it's like, "Well, you got accepted to Wharton," and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, but you're going to Georgetown." It's like, it's just the truth, right? Like the brand recognition is there for the 99%, and that is something that I see is paying off, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Every single time, it just pays dividends.
No shame to Philly though. I am a Philly girl.
Yeah, I mean I 100% agree with that. I think for me, aside from GBE, what I'm looking forward to is really like even the courses. The like I feel like I'm really enjoying the courses I'm taking. I come from an engineering background. I have never taken a business course before coming to Georgetown. Even like the core classes were really enjoyable, but now that I've started taking electives, it's like I see how everything is connected, and I love what we talk about in our core classes. It's being brought up in our electives, and you just get a very like in-depth knowledge, which I really appreciate. And then to Adrian's point, of course, the connections you make. You're just not limited to the flex cohorts. You're not limited to your classmates, especially once you start taking ALEs, electives, you meet a lot of full-time students, flex in person, flex online. And the alumni network is really vast. So take advantage of it. I know there was a lot of questions in the chat about the Forte as well. Even though I did not take the preparation course, I'm still part of Forte as a fellow, and even that kind of opens up to a whole new world of network. So anything you can get your hands on when you're at Georgetown, please take advantage of it. It will be worth it. Yeah.
The great piece of advice.
I think something I'm excited about, which this one might sound odd, but after going through the first semester, now in the second semester, like Nardi mentioned, I've never taken a business class before this. And I was a liberal arts major in my undergrad, and I have another master's, and that was in national security studies. So it was not business. So going through like managerial statistics and accounting, something that is so foreign to me that my brain just was really not comfortable with, but like pushing through it and being like, I did that. I'm not a math girl, but I did that at Georgetown. It was a 6,500 level course and I did it. And so doing that, continuing to remind myself that like we can do things that are uncomfy and that are going to make us better, and just having that opportunity in the future, but then like doing it alongside this cohort who's awesome. They're going through it with you. They feel the struggle. You're not alone. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that, to continuing to grow and remind myself that like we can do this.
On those late night finals or midterms, you're like, why did I decide to do this? But at the end of that 3 hour test, you're just so proud of yourself. And that's such a sense of accomplishment for sure. Any other pieces of advice for if last parting wisdom, if you were in your shoes again this time last year, what would you leave the folks online with?
So I have a funny story. So it was the night that it was the round one was due. My round one application was due that night, and I was like, I had it, and I was like, I think I'm gonna wait till round two. And I texted my boss, and I was like, hey, just yeah, I think I'm gonna wait till round two. And incidentally sent me a trash emoji and was like, and I was like, oh my goodness, I have to do this now. I am so glad that I applied and that I got it out of the way because I'm already almost done with my second semester and it feels great. You know, if you are in those shoes now, don't be scared. Take the leap, do it. It's worth it. Right. I mean, just understand that, people, we were in your shoes. Don't be scared. Do it, and you will be thankful and will not regret it later on.
That is such a good piece of advice. I received something similar, and I'm so glad I
Mhm.
didn't wait. It's worth shooting your shot.
Just to make my answer different from Adrian's, I would say network. I think it really helped me to network last year when I was in your shoes. I think have been the only person at the preview day from the FXO cohort. But I'm glad I went. I met a lot of people. In fact, I networked so much that they invited me to the Graduate Women's in Business Conference. So that was really nice. But as you know, as much as you can network, I'm a student ambassador. We have student ambassadors, who are available to answer any questions you have about the program. We have full-time Flex, in-person, and FXO student ambassadors. So please set up like coffee chats with us. We would love to help answer like any questions you guys have. But like I was saying before, you start the program, make sure to network, and then continue with that habit as well.
Thank you so much. And that was a good reminder. I just dropped the link into the chat with the
Perfect.
Unibuddy platform, which is
Yes.
another great resource to keep connecting with current students, full-time, part-time, and online. So you can definitely reach out.
I would just add that you will get out of it what you put into it, like many things in life. If you get into the program and you kind of just attend class, don't have your camera on, don't come off mute, and you just are gonna, survive, you're not going to get out of it what you can fully get out of this program. And there is a lot to gain from this program if you put in the work. And then the other thing that I would say is don't give up. So I've talked to Adrian about this pretty much, after any exam that we take, I have like a series of people that I will message after and I'll be like,
What just happened?
yeah, and it just feels good to like
Yeah.
be not alone in that. And a lot of the conversations that I had with Adrian at the end of the semester was like, we didn't quit. Like, we're here. It's behind us because we didn't give up. Like,
Mhm.
it might not have been pretty, but we did it. So I think yeah, lean into it. Like I put in the chat, you're gonna get out of it what you put into it and just don't give up. Just keep going. It's one foot in front of the other and just like don't look back. Just keep going.
Okay. Well, I am so proud of you all three. You're rocking it. I know some days it doesn't feel like it, but you're really wonderful and such great representations of the online community and what it means to be a Hoya for sure. I know you guys are scooting out soon for class actually. So I'm gonna hang back and answer any questions related to the admissions process and application. I know I see a few folks kind of interested in about that round 3 deadline. But I appreciate you three coming out and, dedicating a little bit of time to paying it forward and answering all these really great questions and some wonderful pieces of advice. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I will see you all hopefully around campus, Hariri at some point, on Zoom in some capacities, and maybe perhaps at different events. But I'm gonna hang back if you guys need to jump off and get it together before logging on.
Thank you, Madison. Hoya Saxa. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll see you
See
guys.
you. Hi, everyone who have decided to kind of hang around. I'm going to answer any questions you might have about the admissions process. I'm going to hang on for another like 5 more minutes. So if you wanted to put in the Q&A chat, happy to answer it there live, or I can definitely share my email as well if you feel that you want to follow up with me after this event. Happy to coordinate as well.
I was going to answer one of those questions that
Oh
popped
yeah.
up in there. So for Savannah Davis, what are the in-person employer networking opportunities for online students career days? There's a calendar. Everything is planned well in advance. You can plan everything out. There's a weekly flyer that's sent out. There is a monthly calendar. There's an app that you go on through Hoya Connect, and you can get in there and schedule, put your name on for everything. So to answer your question, everything is far enough in advance to where you can travel, you can schedule everything for DC. It is phenomenal. The way that they schedule, and that's one of the best parts. Like that was like the hidden perk to the program that I figured out was like everything is so well scheduled and curated that it makes it very easy for me to plan when I go up there because I typically try to go once a month. For when I go up there, I try to plan around a Thursday, Friday schedule so that way I can hit kegs and then I can do stuff on Friday and be able to have multiple things. But they send it out well in advance.
Yeah, those are there are a ton of resources. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I will say that another really great resource, like you mentioned, you'll start to get incorporated into a ton of WhatsApp chats with some other cohorts, and that's another really great way to kind of start coordinating opportunities to connect with club leaders and really fill in those sweet spot hours for sure. Awesome. Thank you so much, Adrian. I really
Yep, no
appreciate
worries. Have a good one.
that. I'll see you around. Great. Any questions about the MBA admissions process? Good question about the video. What kind of format or style is it expected to be in? We really just need some sort of viewable link. So if it's a YouTube link, that's wonderful. I've seen Vimeo come through. Sometimes people use it through a Google Dropbox. That's okay. That's wonderful. We just need to make sure it's visible. So if you do put it on a public platform and you want it to be only for our eyes, just make sure you protect it on that settings. So we can accept a reel or a TikTok. Just make sure that it's accessible for the admissions committee. Otherwise, our operations team reviews all applications submitted manually. And so if that link doesn't work, it just delays the processing time. So just make sure that it's viewable. And if it's protected and you want it protected, it's still accessible. Awesome. Great question about the Flex in-person experience. We could chit chat for hours about that. I have nothing but amazing reviews about what it's like to take classes in person. I think Andrea actually was really greatly highlighted, this convergence of three different programs as you start to get into your electives. And I think that's actually such a great ROI that I get to meet classmates that are online or full-time if I'm taking a class in person or if I decide to opt for an elective that's online. It's a really great way to kind of expand my network beyond my cohort, but happy to chat more on a one-on-one conversations about it because this could be a whole nother hour. And actually, I invite you to join us on campus on Saturday for the Flex Preview Day if you're able to. That'd be a great way to kind of also get a pulse of what it's like to be in the classroom. Okay, we have a few questions too about the test waiver. Awesome. And then the interview component. Okay, so the test waiver, that is an opportunity to showcase that you have quantitative abilities outside of perhaps your academics or perhaps test scores. If you are considering taking the test waiver, I recommend applying and then seeing you know, uh, you have to be really self-aware of your quantitative strengths. We're pretty strict on following those policy criteria of the admissions committee. So if there's any, doubt that you're borderline, whether it's for a couple different uh, grades or courses, I would err on the side of caution and perhaps plan for a test. But if you're comfortably above the policy, it's a really great way to showcase that you're academically prepared before coming into the program in a different way. So it doesn't applying with a waiver if you meet that criteria doesn't hinder you from merit-based scholarship considerations. That's usually the follow-up question I always get next. But if you have a borderline GPA, that might not make you the most competitive for a merit-based scholarship. So just be a little self-aware and take a look at those benchmarks and that policy and refresh your memory of what you took in undergrad. It's always great to get your transcripts and go through it because the admissions committee really does go for line by line and semester by semester and looking at those trends. So there are humans behind the application for sure. And great. The next question is about the interview. So once you submit your application, what kind of goes on behind the scenes. So once you submit an application, multiple people from the admissions committee will review your application. Not everyone is extended the invitation to interview. However, you can be extended an invitation to interview all the way up until the decision release date. I've seen it happen. And an opportunity to interview does not indicate necessarily the standing in your in the committee's eyes. It's usually just a processing standpoint. So anybody who's been accepted will have interviewed, but not everybody who applies gets the invitation, if that helps. Great. We will likely plan another preview day, perhaps in May. I know that's on our radars for a May or a June timeline for another preview day and have the flex start. And then one more final question, and then we'll wrap it up for the evening. But these are really great questions. Does complementing your application with additional uh, MBA quant prep, whether that's MBA math or perhaps some Coursera courses, um, help your application waiver? It does not hinder it, but it's really pretty strict on those tests, that policy of your transcripts, for sure transcripts and or any professional accreditations that we've listed on that policy. So it may help, but it doesn't, you still have to have the other baselines as well. Great. Okay. We've covered a lot tonight. I really appreciate you all taking the time to invest in yourself and start to gather really great resources as you consider your MBA. I hope I get to see you all at future events and connect in different ways. You have my email, so if you need any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I've also dropped the link to our Unibuddy chat. You're more than welcome to reach out to anyone else on the admissions committee or some of our student ambassadors, like Nardi. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay safe, stay warm if you're in a cold climate, and send us the sunshine if you're in a warm climate. All right, let's see you all.